Hi there! Hope that everyone is doing well. I'm doing an exceptional chat today on experiential design and customer experiences and the importance of spatial design. So, spatial design and other customer experiences are becoming interchangeable in today's retail world, and people are going more and more outside of their homes. Other than the home, a third place can be created to welcome those who wish to spend time outside their houses in order to do things that they love to do and still see or get in touch with other people. And they will have the possibility through these spaces to express their identities, to experience something new, to experience something different, etc. Customers today want something new, they want something magical, they want something enchanting, and these spaces are giving customers the opportunities to do that. I'm crossing the continent today. I'm going across borders to meet with Nicco Homaili to look at the topic of customer experiences and spatial design. And we're going to take more time to discover the small-scale architecture and their place in today's retail's world. These tiny spaces, these small spaces, are very much known today as pop-up stores, which is the highlight of this page, and their influence in retail ergonomics and the enhancement that they give at the level of the sales funnel of a retailer through these spaces, etc. So I'm very happy to do this live chat with Nicco from Singapore, and I'm going to just give a little highlight about the company that Nicco has set up. It's called Packe Plus. Packe PopUp is a retail interior and pop-up store design agency that offers services that are related to spatial design, to furniture design, and that helps in giving advice on design services and proposes brand analysis. So let me invite Nicco in. He's going to take the time to explain all of these services to us. So I hope that the connection is going to serve us justice today. Hello!
Hello, Galia.
How
Nice
are
to
you?
meet you.
Nice to
I'm good.
meet
I'm
you.
great. Yes, all the way from France, right?
Yes, and we are crossing across continents today. I know it's in the evening and there's this
Mm,
time difference, but still we're going to do our best and explain everything during this live. I have talked a lot. I will leave the floor to you to introduce me to you and to your concept, and we're going to go through all of this in detail. So I leave the floor to
definitely,
you.
definitely. Hi, my name is Nicco Homaili, also the founder and design lead of Packe. We call it as Packe because we are actually a brand that actually are brand extensions for retailers itself. So that's our niche. And I'm actually architecturally trained. Before this, I've worked in an architecture company, two architecture companies, and I found a love in retail because I do like to, fashion sense as well. So in a sense where I buy fashion clothes and I get to dig deeper into brands, that's when I see architecture as a tool to sort of bring the brand forward and to create this small startup called Packet for pop-up stores. So it
Very
started
interesting.
in, yeah, it started in February 2020, and we are still pretty new. I mean, the projects that you've seen are mostly unbuilt and conceptual projects, but I think it's like a vigor to bring forward an example of brands that I think that I can use architecture to leverage on to put into the retail pop-up concept. So yeah.
Perfect. We're going to look at all of these elements in detail in a few, but just guide me through the services that you have proposed on your website. You say that you specifically do spatial design, furniture design, and design services and brand analysis. So what's the difference between all of these services?
Well, okay, so Packet is not only a small scale architecture company that we do helping brands to bring forward their name out in form of physical or structural forms. We actually, before we get into any architecture design, we actually like to dissect a certain brand. We like to get involved and get deep into a certain brand. That's where brand analysis comes in, because from that essence of brand analysis, we can sort of pick out certain elements that can probably influence the spaces, the programs, and also the aesthetic of the pop-up stores. So you would say brand analysis will probably be the start of any design process in our company or startup as Packe. And then we, of course, our main core service will be a spatial design, and that will probably be your pop-up store. Of course, we also have bespoke furniture design that complements the whole space in tying together your whole concept of your campaign, your product campaign, or your brand's motto to form the whole space as a user experience defined kind of entity. And of course, we do have project management as well and client advisory. So we aim to bring forward actually the concepts of brands further by giving our architectural expertise. And also in terms of materiality, form, and scale, I think that's the whole process of getting the whole retail store. So in general, our core service is to get a final product on a retail pop-up store, but we do break down the process to sell it as an additional service so that people can see how serious we are in terms of putting out a pop-up store that is very fitting to your brand. So yeah.
So you're customizing absolutely every detail along the
Yes.
way in order to offer the customer an A to Z personalized service that meets their
Definitely.
brands and their objectives. We're going to look about all of these details in a few, but let's start first with the notion of customer experience and the importance of customer experience in retail. So what is customer experience and why is it becoming so important in today's world?
Because I think customer experience itself, the main thing that every brand is looking out for, in my opinion, if I were to have a fashion brand, I would want brand loyalty, customers that are willing to be a part of your brand. And they have to know what they are buying in terms of retail. Like if they are buying a product from you, it has to have a sense of purpose. It has to be a sense of a value add to their normal daily lives. And I feel that being as a consumer in retail itself, it's important that someone who wants to consume your product is very immersed into the whole experience of your whole branding. Because take for example, you probably have products that are doing on recycled products and all this, because you want people to know that your brand is not only selling stuff, but it has a purpose, and therefore you're putting out an image that is sustainable. Your whole pop-up store looks very nature friendly, I would call it, and it's driven by these principles that I think your consumers would definitely want to be part of it, and it will feel great by having that the product of yours when you bring out your purpose in your whole retail consumer process.
And so how does spatial design affect this customer experience?
Well, spatial design affects both customer experience and also as retailers. The way I see it, when I was forming Packe, I gave a thought about this as well. On layman's term, people would not probably read space how we architects read it, because the way we read it is we see it in form of scale, material, texture. But when it comes to people, is I think is more of like being influenced by spaces. Take for example, you walk into a room, it's so small and crowded, you probably want to move out of the room. It looks cluttered, right? If you walk into a room and it's empty, you probably don't want to go in, but at the same time, from the outside, it gives you a sense of curiosity into that space. So I think this is how architecture or spatial design sort of like influence the movement of people around, giving a sense of sometimes curiosity, sometimes a sense, like if you want someone to just go into that space and just get out straight away fast, just do your purchase transactions, you probably want to design that space a little bit more efficient and smaller. But if it's like a gathering space, you probably want to make it a lot more wider, a lot more, space for people to have their own privacy. And I think also in retail, there's also the difference between the public and the private realm. Therefore, you definitely sometimes you wanted some private sort of like personalized service. And that's when I think spatial design is also part of that. And at the same time, you want people to see that you're doing a private service which is much more exclusive to consumers. And that's when, you know, your partition walls, your, I don't know, your doors or anything, it could be something that is of different opacity. And that's how spatial design and materiality in architecture sort of influence the whole consumer experience. So I think that is
Yeah.
quite interesting. Yeah,
So basically, what we mean by that is design will affect the way people will feel once they get in contact with our space. And
definitely.
so, what about ergonomics? I think we mentioned that term earlier, or the importance of ergonomics in the spatial design.
Yes, definitely. I mean, ergonomics have sort of the basic principles of getting comfort in people out. I think there are basic principles to ergonomics, like in terms of your standing height, your seating height. You know, in architecture terms, 450, 700 on the table, 750 or 900 on the bar table. So it depends on the experience that you want your consumers to feel.
Mm.
Also, there are some I would say brands that want them to experience what their brand is. Like example, you have a Japanese oriented kind of tea brand that you probably want to sit them on the floor or probably be lower on the table. That's where the ergonomics of the furniture design, in especially for our company Packe, we do our bespoke furnitures. These are the things that we tend to dissect from a brand, and we try to influence on the ergonomics of our design. And I think this is quite interesting because sometimes we don't have to follow the traditional way of giving a normal ergonomics to a person, where you can actually bend the rules and to create certain experiences for people. You can probably make the ceiling height lower just to give the space a little more compressed, more, you know, it depends on the brand's experience and what their feeling is to the campaign. So
Yeah,
that
so exactly that's actually what I wanted to ask you about. So it's really important that today a brand comes over to you with clear objectives. I want to do this, I want to have that effect, in order for you to help them translate that into a physical
definitely.
space. Yeah.
Yes.
And as you said before, we had the tendency to just copy out spaces without really thinking about what we want from that space.
Mm.
And so today, let's talk about the importance of, again, customer experience in different types of industries. Do we feel, or from your experience, do you think and feel that brands coming from different industries like food, maybe fast moving consumer goods or fashion, etc., are they all moving into creating enhanced spaces to deliver customer experiences? Or are there industries that lean towards that more than others?
I think sorry, if I were to rephrase your question, you're saying something about different industries going into customer experience. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, I think it depends on the industry that you're talking about. But there are some industries that I think they work together hand in hand to give a better customer experience. Just take for example an augmented reality company, or probably a delivery service company. Especially in these times of COVID, customer experience is sort of, you can say, obsolete or lessened due to certain regulation and statutory happening in different countries, and you're avoiding from social distancing and all this. What makes that brand so special online, you see? This is where, customer experience, people are spending thousands of dollars on web design, or even apps that can make people as interactive users. And that's when people come in together to collaborate with different brands, just like delivery services, personal touches through augmented reality, like Uniqlo's Magic Mirror. And I
Yeah.
think that they are actually going into these sort of online, virtual yet interactive, intuitive graphics user interface, I will call it, just to get people immersed and feel special about their brand, even though they miss the sense of tactility and materiality of their products. So I agree that most food is a bit different. Food is I would say it's more on convenience because people get hungry fast, and customer experience in a sense where I seen before the COVID, we had like food trucks and all this. it's also another step ahead to bring out your brand and giving a purpose to your brand by giving convenience to customers as well. But nowadays, I think most retail fashion brands, I would say, they lean a lot on technological advances that can help their brands push forward. And that way, the technological brands also use their products to retail brands as a leverage point to bring out their brand as a technological sort of
Yes,
like a, you know, they bring out each other's brand through themselves. So
yes,
it's quite
yes.
interesting in this
We put
era.
each other in value, or we, yeah,
Yes,
we give each other value.
yes.
Okay. Now we're talking about the importance of space, but we're focusing on the importance of small spaces, such as the projects that you work on. And later on, we
Mhm.
can answer some of the questions. So, why have pop-up stores today become so important in the retail world?
Well, like I mentioned recently, that a lot of brands have been moving virtually and towards the online realm. They're trying to, they pay, like I said, they pay $1,000 or more just to build their website, their apps, intuitive apps. But there's also one thing that we cannot take away from products, I think, which is tactility, materiality, and sizing, especially in terms of fashion retail. That is why I think pop-up stores are still essential, I would say. But now the challenge of it is, social distancing and all these COVID-19 issues that are starting to arise. It's a lot more difficult, and the trend is getting lesser. But I think the pop-up stores main existence is to be a brand extension to your brand that you have online. Like it could be an extension of a word of mouth, or it could be an extension of a graphic, you see. And I think that having a pop-up store, it's sort of like amplifies your whole purpose and your whole motives and your mottos of your brand, and putting it together in physical form. And I think that is very important. At the same time, if the pop-up store is as attractive, or it's very memorable, the pop-up store has to be Instagrammable, and that will be an automatic word of post, I would say, not word of mouth. So it's quite an interesting topic if we were to dwell into word of post. But then again, back to pop-up stores, I think they are the main reason why people come back to your brand, because they tend to be brand loyalty.
Yes.
And not only your products, but also the way you service them, and the way you put them into your shoes as a retailer, putting them in your brand to make them feel like they are part of it. So I think pop-up stores are still very important, especially during a limited time. That's the only time you can actually get a sense of exclusivity towards your consumers, and they will feel very special after the whole pop-up store is done.
Yes, yes. So we're talking about an event that is timely, that is unique, that personifies or gives a physical look of our brand's concept, and through which the customer will engage with the brand. So pop-up stores have become very special, and they can serve the brand in many ways. But
Yeah.
now, designing pop-up stores is also another issue. We have seen that many brands are going really crazy and really creative with their pop-up stores. How can retail architecture play a role in the design of pop-up stores?
Well, as we can come back to the example I said to you recently about private and public realm, and giving a sense of curiosity in the space, I think that's the whole I would say the whole process of how architecture influence people through pop-up store design. Of course, there are certain things that we have to play around architecture when it comes to designing pop-up stores. And for us as Packe designers as well, we believe that we need a certain constraint for us to design. So the
Yeah.
constraint will definitely be the brand itself. And it depends of what kind of visual aesthetic would they want, what kind of service are they going to give, if it's going to be a private or exclusive or public service. Sometimes you can also be the kind of sort of a beacon of your brand. Like a pop-up store can be something that sometimes they go crazy on the form, they go crazy on the materiality, they also go crazy on the construction of the pop-up store. So all these comes together and it gives you the sense of a full vision of your brand. And how I think architecture has helped shape it is by the choice of materials, because some people want to have recycled materials, some people want to have innovative materials, solar powered materials, and some people would also want a structure that can help them imbue certain technological advances such as virtual reality or augmented reality. And we as designers have to know the ergonomics of this and have to know the flow of people coming into the architecture itself for the pop-up store. At the same time, at different points of your journey through the pop-up store, we are the ones who are going to decide what are they going to experience, how are we going to storytell based on, say example, you enter the store, you see a bunch of materials, you pick out the materials, and then you pick out the type of fashion that you're going to do it. And then you can also pick out the way the clothes or the product is constructed. I think that whole flow is influencing by architecture itself, because the space that we create from one point to the other is a point of creating a function or a program that
Yeah.
the retailers or the consumers are looking at. And if consumers are really in depth and immersed in your brand, they would read the whole flow just like us as architects. And that's our aim, or I would say our goal as retailers and architecture itself. So yeah.
So through that architecture, you are helping the customer live a story as you're presenting him the floor to construct his journey throughout
Definitely.
the pop-up. So very interesting. And you mentioned earlier the importance of storytelling and design, and
Yes.
this is something really unique that needs to
Yes.
be translated in today's world. And another thing that you mentioned, which is really interesting, you consider yourself a customer when designing your space, right?
Definitely. If you have the answer for a customer or what he or she wants to buy from your brand, you definitely have your set of guidelines, a set of constraints for you to design. So I think it's important to put yourself in the shoes of the clients, not only the retailers, but also the consumers, so that your whole brand can be sort of developed further, more realistically and much more full of experience when it comes to architecture and retail itself. So we got to find that gel that the consumers want between architecture and retail.
Okay, perfect. Let's answer that question, Nico. Can pop-up stores be considered as third places?
Third places, in a sense, did he mean by trying to say something that is an extension or?
Like these spaces maybe where customers go to outside their homes and outside their offices to live maybe a new or different experience.
Yes, I think pop-up store, like as I mentioned recently, it's an extension of your main store. It depends on the retailers itself, but most of the time, from what I understand, pop-up stores are temporal and they have their own campaign for a certain product launch. And you probably wouldn't get to experience in the main store as much as the pop-up store. And I think the pop-up store is a sort of like a translator for this kind of language for your product. And I think
Mm,
as for third places, I think this pop-up store is important because instead of the store itself, the pop-up store will be as much more memorable for your consumers.
yeah.
And they will remember based on the product and also based on the store. If it's really gelling, I think they will come back to your brand, to your main store as loyalty. So I
Yeah.
think it is definitely an obvious third place.
Sure, thank you. Let's talk about the projects that you have been working on. I know it's still in conceptual phase, but still we have a lot to share today. So what type of brand do you mainly work with? Is it fashion, food, technology, or do you have, I mean, do you lean towards the choice of a client to work with?
For now, I guess our niche is mainly on retail fashion, because the way I see when it comes to fabric making, when it comes to fabric choice, when it comes to how the brand is leaning towards minimalism and all these are similar design guidelines that we use for architecture. And I think it's since I'm doing it in an unbuilt conceptual form, I think it's sort of like seamlessly gelling towards
Yeah.
what I'm doing in my exemplary projects. And brands that I've tried to work on. Of course, I tag them in their social media and all this. Just also to build my brand up because I also started Packet in February. I
Yeah.
worked on Fin, which is a local brand that does a Boro Sashiko kind of Japanese stitching and patchwork. I also did on this Biro company, which they believe in minimalism in fashion, and it's all about the ball pen that starts into an idea. So I think that those kind of poetic metaphors that are within the brand itself is the sort of like the epitome of the projects that I'm going to work on and continue to build in the future as a portfolio for Packet. So yeah,
Okay. Can I show some pictures about the Fin project and you can explain to us the importance of design and how the process has been made? So I have
definitely.
taken some of the pictures from the website. So this is a pure example of a beautiful space that is made from a couple of materials, but that has a very particular shapes. Tell us about that.
Well, if you were to look at the plan of this, the whole pop-up store itself, it's generated by 5 layers of components where they have different functions. And okay, let me just tell you about the brand itself. Fin Crafted Goods itself is a patchwork and a Boro Sashiko kind of stitching brand that sort of uses old materials to build their own new garments, such as jeans, such as jackets. So they do their own patchwork. They also have exclusive stitching from the inside and the outside. So the way I see it in the whole architecture for this Fin Pavilion is the idea of stitching itself, bringing different materials together based on Fin. It's more of like stitching programs in the store. So
Yeah.
in this Fin Pavilion itself, as you can see, the form is interlocking. It's more like a stitching, I would say metaphorically stitching. Um, it's an interlocking space for browsing area, for workshops, for even a small mini runway. So these spaces not only categorize themselves through this stitching concept, but at the same time they are versatile. So the spaces are value added, I would say, because Finn also believes in taking old garments and making them into new garments by putting them together as stitches. So we are using spaces to value add in that sense of metaphorical way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So the interesting thing is this Fin Pavilion itself is made out of recycled wood. And I think that whole materiality is to showcase the brand's purpose in their whole sort of like retail journey, because they believe in upcycling. They believe in not wasting any product that is fabric. So the way I see it is I've made this out of recycled plywood, and also those aesthetics that you see on the panels, which are actually bandanas or fabrics. These are recycled fabrics to give a hint from the outside for the people to see that, okay, this is done by Finn.
Yeah.
And the space itself, as you can see, some of them is solid, some of them is full of trellises, lines, is to also show stitching in a sense of a visual way. So it's
Yes.
to show,
The
yes, to show
process.
your the process and also the function of the space. Is it a private space, or is it a semi-private space, or is it an open space? And from the outside, if you look at it as a whole, it's more of like it evokes curiosity from the rest, and
Yeah.
people will tend to look like, oh, what space is this? And the last point I want to touch is about the project is when everyone enters the space, fabric itself doesn't only come from the product, it comes from people, movement, and what people wear. So that's why we have different opacity in the terms of materials that we use in the whole building, because we have trellises, we have solid, and we have no panels, so people can see a mixture, a patchwork of movement and activities, which I would call that totally seals the brand's motto. Yeah,
Wow, really interesting. I mean, first of all, it translates the idea of the brand and it puts it into reality without having to explain or to speak to customers because they're going
definitely.
to feel it throughout their
Yes,
journey. I'm going to just pass on the pictures another time, and we're going to pass them on in the stories later on just to show the
definitely.
details further. And all of these are available anyway on the website. So we're talking about an important process of design before being able um, to have or to make this project happen. These types of projects, do they take time, or do they have a deadline, or are we really designing in an urgent fashion? Or tell us about the timing and the process.
About the projects that I've done,
Yes.
of course, the projects that I've done don't really have a specific deadline because they are unbuilt. But I think as a designer myself, I do train to work within a timeline, because when it comes to reality, when it comes to client base, you definitely have to meet the timeline before the campaign even starts. And of course, aside from designing the pop-up stores, you also have to take into consideration their marketing strategies that they might want to promote their pop-up stores. So in terms of that, definitely there is a time constraint, but like any architecture or interior project, it is going to be time consuming, because we have to justify with rhyme and reason anything that you put out, anything that is of area, of material, it's going to be cost. And we have to justify to the client that, okay, whatever we are putting is meaningful for your brand, and it has functions for your brand. And we don't want to waste any materials or any cost or financial remuneration on the brand side, just to show the brands that we actually value their motto through efficient and feasible architecture. And the whole process, basically, like as I mentioned, we started off dissecting a brand and picking out loopholes from the brand that is not shown enough on their probably on their visual merchandising or anything. And we try to amplify that through architecture. And we also use sort of like metaphors and poetic influences from the brand to put it into physical form. It could be furniture, it could be your whole pop-up store, it could be anything. It could even be ornaments or even statues that represent your brand. So the whole process about this pop-up store is pretty much insightful and in-depth. Definitely, it's a lot of research because as designers, architectural designers, and I'm going through a niche of fashion design, there are certain things that I might not be aware of in fashion, technical things. And these are the things that we have to research as well to make sure that, retail gels well together with architecture and has reason. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I think we have another question. I'm going to check it. And here it is. How can a pop-up store, in your opinion, help in connecting with social platforms or social media platforms of brands?
Well, okay. I can technically tell you this idea that I had recently, especially during the COVID-19 era right now, where everyone is staying home and social distancing is a thing now, and everybody doesn't want to go out as much. So let's just put this into perspective, where you're an online consumer and you want to buy something from your social profile. Like say your Facebook page has a shop tab where you press, and then there's all your products down there. You can purchase your products there. The importance of this pop-up store is then again to bring back the materiality and tactility of your store. And at this time and era, I had this idea of bringing in a pop-up store that can promote a social distancing sort of concept in a way where it is an extension to your online online store. So as you come into your Facebook page or your Shopify app or whatever it is, you just scroll down your products and you feel like, oh, I like this product, I like the product, but you don't know what the material is, you don't know what the sizes are. So that's where I had the idea of a small capsule pop-up store, which is literally enough and efficient for you to go through and then be funneled through the whole buying process. So how this works is, I mean, this is just an idea. How this works is they get to make an appointment on the app itself by putting in a time slot that they want to come into that small booth. And that small booth is non-manned by anyone. You have that small booth around your area. You can get out of the house, get into the small booth, and you'll be greeted with someone who is special about their product, who knows about their product, remotely, like how you and me on IG Live right now. So at the same time, it promotes social distancing because there won't be anyone in there except you because you book your timing. And then it also promotes sustenance of staffing for retails because they don't have to work; they can work from home, and it's a personalized service. And
Yeah.
so when this happens, you get to feel the material of the product, and then you get to talk to the person, you get to ask about the sizing and all this, and by the time you leave the store within an hour or so, you get to decide on your whole social media platform that you want to buy it online. So I mean, to answer that back to that question about how can it help social brands, it should be a funneling platform for your online store. It should it should be a decisive factor for your products on the online store. At the end of the day, when they go through the pop-up store after looking at your products online, they should be able to decide, okay, I'm going to get this. I'm definitely going to buy this because I've experienced the whole thing. So that should probably be the main reason why pop-up stores are still very essential.
Yes. So what you have said really is really interesting. At first, when we were introducing the topic, we were saying that yes, pop-up stores could come and be added as another channel, communications or distributions channels to that of the brand. And today we are seeing that it could help the brand into many aspects that physical or traditional retail couldn't do in order to first of all keep the brand close to the customer, and in these difficult times give positive solutions to brands in order to stay with their customers. So you have a thank you for the questions anyway.
Thank you for the question.
Nicco, I think we have had our round regarding the topic and everything that we wanted to discuss. Is there anything else that you would like to add about your project or about the topic that we were discussing today?
I mean, as a pop-up store designer with an architecture background, I'm sure there are some retailers or consumers that are looking at this IG Live. As much as possible, it's the principles of getting your brand out there, aside from a pop-up store, is pretty much the same. Like whatever it is, your brand, at the end of the day, you have to funnel out to a deciding factor for your brand. Nowadays there's a lot of funneling strategies online that people send emails and all this. It's the same as pop-up stores. If you look at it as a deciding factor for your brand, I think this is the only way that you can get your brand to be very successful and memorable, and people would tend to remember your brand through your brand loyalty. And of course, if you do like our work, for you guys that are watching our IG Live, you can always visit our website at www.packet, Packetplus, packetplus.net. And we do have blogs that we write about, stores that are interesting to us. We do have mood boards, and also we do have conceptual projects that we worked on. I think recently there's 5 of them on the website. And we look forward to hear from you guys. If you guys have any questions, just shoot us an email at create@packetplus.net, or probably you can ask Galia as well. And Galia, thank you so much for inviting us on this Instagram Live.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to share this video on IGTV, so it will be directly available. And later on, it will be available on YouTube. So those who didn't
Perfect.
have the time to watch us can rerun and watch this video. Thank you so much for your time and for your for sharing these projects with us. And we hope to get back with you soon as you start doing the projects for real, in order to see the outcome as it should be.
Definitely. Thank you for reaching out, Galia.
And have a nice weekend.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Bye.